got invited to a bunko party with a bunch of women I've never met, and I'm sitting outside their house in my car because I said, "Oh, I want to come, but I have to do a call at 5:30." So that was pretty funny. So
that is great. I love
and
it.
it works in perfectly with what I'm going to talk about because I just met them today. So,
oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
So Nancy, give us a little background. I know that you were a part of Jacqueline Strominger's team out of Reno. And how, when did you start with Touchstone?
March.
Okay. And then what happened?
My first party was great. I think I did about 800, and well, I was hooked from the minute I met Jacqueline. And it was funny because my husband ended up going to work for her as her kind of web person and personal assistant.
Yes.
And I wanted to join the team and I wanted to sell the jewelry, but he didn't want me to. And so Jacqueline and I just connived and said, okay, we want to do this, so we have to figure out a way to get Sam to agree to it. So he has no idea to this day that we totally, did this together. And so, but my second month, I made $1,200 in commission. I got 3 people under me between the first and the second months, and I earned $4,000 in free jewelry. And so, what can you say?
Except congratulations. That has got
Thank you. My third month was not so good, but this month's going to be amazing again because I want the wine glasses.
The wine glasses, yes.
Yeah.
Did you come into the company with any experience in direct selling?
Lots in sales, but none in direct selling of products. I had been in the investment industry. I had been in banking, that type of thing. Oh, but wait, I'm lying. I had sold Jafra maybe when I was in my 20s. So that's like, what, 30 years ago? Almost 40.
Join the club, right?
Yeah.
We're all in the club. That's great.
And I wasn't very successful. So I would say I didn't have much experience in direct selling.
So Nancy, we are really excited to hear you share with us your approach to meeting and greeting people on the street as you're out and about, and what you say, how you, what your heart and intentions are with those people, and how you get up the courage for all of that.
Well, it's really funny because I'm also in the insurance business. I started in the insurance business as an agent 3 months before Touchstone. And that's one of the reasons my husband said, no way. And I get it. And the other day, my district manager was in, and he was doing a survey, and he said, what is your favorite way to prospect? And I thought about it for a minute, and I thought, well, really, that's a gross question. Who wants to prospect? And I thought, you know what? My favorite way is just talking to strangers. And he said, that's great. And so I got thinking about it, and I thought it works. And I'm much more successful right now at Touchstone than I am at insurance because, face it, who wants to talk about insurance when you can talk about jewelry, right? So I just have always, and you know what? The funny thing is, I think when I was a stockbroker in my 20s, I read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, unless it's the other way around. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, written in 1920. And it's the most brilliant book because basically he talks about being a nice human being and just being nice to people. That's all you have to do. And so I kind of took those ideas way back then and I adopted them without realizing it. And now I think my number one thing I do is I compliment people for something. You can look at any woman any time of the day and always find something to compliment her on. Well, usually. Jewelry, hair, top, shoes, her skin. I was in the cosmetics industry for a long time. When I see somebody with beautiful skin, I say, oh my gosh, you have such beautiful skin. What country, what is your your nationality? And then they get talking about themselves. And jewelry is the easiest one because then you can say, I love your earrings. Look at mine. Do you like mine? And they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, where'd you get yours? And they'll say, I just talk to everybody I'm in line next to at a store. Jacqueline actually is probably was the first, is a good example. I was at a big networking event, where there was literally hundreds of people. It was crazy. She stood up and introduced herself because she was a guest, as was I. And I don't even remember what she said. Something like, I'd love to help show you how to have a more professional appearance without spending a lot of money on your clothes, or something like that. And something about her just drew her to me. And I said, I got to meet her. So the second it ended, I told my manager, I said, I'm going over to meet somebody, and I ran over to her, and the rest is history. But if you feel drawn to somebody, just find an excuse to walk up and say, I love your whatever. I love your purse. I love your whatever. The second one that I did that was kind of big recently was, I live in kind of a rural area, and we have one, and it's Nevada, so there's casinos, and we're right on the border of California, and it's like a restaurant, casino type, funny place that are very common out here in Nevada. If you ever come visit, you'll get to see them. Mm-hmm. And I was in there, and the lady was managing the store, and she was wearing a very blinged out t-shirt that said something like 75 years Tupperware. And you guys maybe have seen him, because I think all the consultants are getting him. And I'm like, oh, she's a Tupperware consultant. Woohoo. That's great. And so I started talking to her, and she's super sweet, and she's only been doing it a couple of years. But I said, maybe we should have a party together. And she lives over the border in California, and I live down in Nevada. And so we've put together a huge party for Saturday this Saturday I'm very excited about. Wow. And that was just by walking up to her and commenting on her shirt and finding out about it. Mm-hmm. And that was it. And then there was at the grocery, I guess I didn't know how else to approach this other than just tell you stories. I hope this is working.
It's great.
It is.
And we'll have questions. We'll have questions for you in a second. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just do one more. So and this is like one that you would think would be super awkward, and I always did too, but man, I made it work because I was determined. I was at this grocery store that's kind of a discount grocery store, but they have gourmet foods. So it's an awesome place. It's called Grocery Outlet. We call it Gross Out, which is very fun. And I was in line, and actually I got 2 connections that day, but this was the second one, and I was wearing my blue pendant, I think it's brilliant pendant necklace I got with my kit, which was the kit before this one, and it's turquoise and blue with the different gems in it. And the cashier, who was Indian from India and dressed fully Indian and quite reserved and shy and polite, like many of the Indian people are, said, I really love your necklace. And I said, thank you. I love it too. I said, I actually sell these. And she said, you do? She said, how much does that cost? And what about the earrings? And so I told her, I said, well, I think the necklace is about $70, which actually I don't even think it's that much. And the earrings are about $30. And she said, oh, do you have a card? And I said, yeah. And I thought, you know what? I give out cards and you never hear from them. So I handed her a card. She's got this huge line of people standing up. I pull out my receipt that she had just handed me. Luckily, I had a pen that was handy. I looked at the name on her apron, and I said, give me your number real quick, and so I can be sure to call you. And she did. She was like, oh, she was totally flustered, and I was flustered, and everybody behind was probably hating me. It's like, this bitch, she's trying to sell people in line, and we want to just get out of here.
Right.
But it totally worked, and I got her number, and I called her today, and then we're playing phone tag. But it was like, even when it seems like there's no time and it's awkward, if you just move aside and are polite and are careful and thoughtful of other people, you can still get in that number, that phone number, if you really want it.
Mm-hmm. That's really neat. What do you do to turn that person in line into a potential contact? When she says, oh, I do like your jewelry, then what are the kinds of word choices that are working for you to introduce the jewelry line to them? Anything in particular?
I always say, oh gosh, so do I. I just love it. It's something I've just discovered, and I love it because of all the colors, because that's what I love about it. And it's all Swarovski crystals. And people almost always say, oh, really? You know, I've maybe had two people say, what's that? But I always throw out the name Swarovski, and I say, and I sell it. And if you're interested, I could help you earn some free jewelry. But to strike up a conversation initially, I can find something like a guy walked in with a tomato plant, and his wife turned around and said, absolutely not. We already have 25 tomato plants. And I just burst out laughing, and I said, I can so relate to that. And well, I have their business cards, and we're having coffee tomorrow. So, you know, there's always some way to strike up a conversation, but to get it around the jewelry, if it depends on how much time I have, I'll ask them a question like, yeah, do you like it because of the color? Or I love it because it's blingy, but it's not tacky. You know, I'll just kind of throw out some of my favorite things about it.
That's really neat. I love it. Do you ever get afraid?
No, not when I'm talking to strangers. I get more afraid when I'm talking to people I know. And it's like you were talking about earlier, using up all your friends. At the beginning, in insurance and in jewelry, I had a tendency to kind of beat a dead horse, thinking eventually she's going to come around. And it's like, I'll move on to somebody new, for crying out loud.
Right. Right. And that's where finding all the new people. So one last question, and then I'll open it up. If you were at a networking event tomorrow, what would you say to people to strike up a conversation?
It depends on the person. I would find a way to compliment them.
Okay.
First of all. And then I would find a way to say, if they had no jewelry on, I'd say, so do you ever wear jewelry? And if they say, no, I really don't like bling, you know, that kind of, I'm sure there's a way to work around that, but I'd probably let that go. If they had a piece of jewelry on, then I compliment it and draw it right back to my jewelry and say, how do you like this necklace? You know, or this bracelet or these earrings.
Okay. I like it. And do you mostly just talk to women, or do you ever talk to the men?
I have not yet good grief, talked to men about jewelry.
Okay.
And that would be something I'd love to maybe have a little topic on. Somebody else could do a talk on that. That'd be great.
Okay. All right. Those are great, really great points. Nancy, I just love how confident you are. Who has a question for Nancy? Inquiring minds want to know.
I kind of feel like I didn't say anything that was all that revolutionary.
Well, not to you, but remember, everybody has a very different way of doing the business and a different comfort level, but to hear you explain it all, it makes it seem pretty simple, right? Who has a comment or a question for her? Maybe about getting over a fear. What do you say next? Anything like that?
I highly recommend everybody read how to win friends and influence people. It's not just reading a sales book. It's just reading a lovely book about the human heart. It really is. It makes you really wish you could have met the guy.
That's really neat. You know, Nancy, yeah. I do think that there is no substitute for assuming that everybody that you meet is a friend. I think in our culture, we sometimes get an edge to us, especially if we live in an area that's pretty transient. We lose that friendliness. And some parts of the country are more friendly than others. But if we can approach everybody, even just in line at the grocery store as a friend, it sure makes those conversations go more smoothly because we're just treating them like we've known them, right? And I think that's just a really nice way of working with people. Well, Nancy, it sounds like you've got a fun party to go to with these people that you just met today.
Some strangers.
Yep, there are no strangers, only friends you haven't met, right?
And that's exactly what, and she is the director of the newcomers group in Reno, which she wants me to get on the board. So think of how many people I'll meet that way. So
how fun is that? Oh, yeah. And Priscilla asked a question. She said, I love the idea of sparking conversation through a compliment. I may have missed this, but is she selling to people on the fly or getting contact information and following up?
Mostly getting contact information and following up.
Great.
Yeah. Except for Yeah, I pretty much am. That's what I'm
Okay.
doing.
And that's and the fortune is in the follow-up, so that's really working.
Yeah.
Mhm. Wonderful. Well, Nancy, thank you so, so much. I really appreciate you kicking off our fantastic summer series with your great ideas. Have a great time at the Bunko party and with all the new friends you're going to meet. And
Thank you. I
know,
don't know how to hang up.
it's okay. I'll end the whole thing.
Oh,
That'll
good.
hang you up. Yeah.
Nice to meet everybody. Have fun this
Yeah.
summer.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being on the
Bye,
call tonight. We
Betsy.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have a great night. Thanks.
Good luck with the